Oh dear. If this is true, I cannot wait to see how Montreal Canadiens fans are going to react. Because earlier this morning, from Dennis Bernstein of the Fourth Period, he tweeted out some LA Kings related notes. And the first one here is quite a doozy. MARC BERGEVIN, hired as the senior advisor to GM Rob Blake in January 2022, is in consideration for the open Columbus Blue Jackets general manager role, replacing Jarmo Kekalainen, a role that has been freed up ever since that guy left the organization. If it's MARC BERGEVIN of all people that goes over to Columbus, I cannot wait to see how the hockey world responds. Even some of the replies on this tweet are kind of memeing about in regards to this situation. I heard that Anton Silayev is a 6'7" Romanov. He's your guy, Bergie. R.I.P. CBJ. Bergevin is underrated. He won 90% of the trades he made. Made a few mistakes like Alzner and Sergachev, but every GM makes mistakes. And then, isn't Columbus where his good friends Trevor Timmons is? They're gonna build another country club there. Ay, ay, ay. Senior advisor to the guy who signed Pierre-Luc Dubois to a mega contract. Great job there, guys. I mean, this entire response is so funny because MARC BERGEVIN, while he does have his reputation, he is a guy that I think will go down as one of the more... Is infamous the right word? I don't know if that's really it, but he's a notable guy in Canadiens lore, especially in the past 20 years or so. Bergevin had prime Carey Price and never got a point-per-game player. Even if you actually think he won 90% of his trades, he was a terrible GM. Terrible at drafting, terrible at signing, and yeah, terrible at trades. Teams trade for stars all the time. He was A+ with his trades, but D- in player development. A GM that wasn't able to win with Carey Price is a bad GM. There's a lot going on here that I think we can dive into, but I wanted to express my just overall thought process on Bergevin before we explore more of this conversation. And there actually was a really good article published by Josh Erickson on ProHockeyRumors.com. We're going to read this after, but when it comes to MARC BERGEVIN, the big thing that will always stand out to me when you think about his time as the Canadiens GM was the fact that this guy made a ton of trades. Like, he was probably the most active GM making trades during the entire time period he was in Montreal, I'm pretty sure. I mean, this is the list right here. In 2021, how many trades did he make in 2021? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 trades in 2021. In 2020, how many trades did he make? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 trades in a year. The guy averages over a trade a month. Sure, some of these were just, draft picks and everything, but like... MARC BERGEVIN made a ton of trades, and quite frequently the Canadiens would get guys that would be seen as sort of valuable. I mean, he got Christian Dvorak, not the worst player in the world, extra draft picks and change over here. Eric Gustafsson, not the worst player in the world. John Merrill, could have been a bit better, but not the worst player. Eric Stahl over here. Josh Anderson, you could say, this was maybe one of the worst trades that Bergevin made in regards to what Anderson ended up becoming for the Canadiens. Joel Edmondson, I honestly think that was a pretty good one that helped the Canadiens make it to the Stanley Cup Finals. You gotta remember, too, I mean, MARC BERGEVIN literally built this team that went to the Stanley Cup freaking final. You can say what you want about drafting, say what you want about development. Sure, I get it, it wasn't great, but he still had that one big A+ on his resume to take advantage of the Canadian North Division and put the Canadiens in a Stanley Cup final spot, defeating Winnipeg, defeating Toronto, and defeating Vegas, only to lose to Tampa Bay. But when it comes to Bergevin, I mean, the guy has a big reputation for making a lot of trades. You can talk as well about the draft history. Let's go out there. MARC BERGEVIN draft history. Here we go. MARC BERGEVIN staff history, is that going to be here? Okay, drafted. Here you go. Very convenient. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So, take a look at this. With the Montreal Canadiens, MARC BERGEVIN drafted Alex Galchenyuk 3rd overall, Jesperi Kotkaniemi 3rd overall. These two guys, unfortunately, they were just not it. I mean, Galchenyuk had a few 30-goal seasons mixed in there. He was pretty good for a time with the Montreal Canadiens, but... he only had one 30-goal season and a 56-point campaign to boot. but he was never really a third overall caliber guy as his career went on. Jesperi Kotkaniemi, you could very much say the same thing about him. Some of these other guys, I mean, Cole Caulfield, at the very least, Bergevin drafted him and Caden Gooley. Lot of success out of these two guys. Ryan Poehling, not a great pick. We all thought he would be a lot better than he ended up becoming, although to be fair, Poehling did show very well in the NCAA. Michael McCarron, not a great pick. Nikita Sherbak, not a great pick. Noah Juleson is fine now, but not a great pick. And then Logan Mailloux was like the most controversial one by far. You talk about all the guys that were taken that didn't pan out to anything. Logan Mailloux actually could pan out to something, but he was by far the most controversial pick that MARC BERGEVIN had as a member of the Montreal Canadiens. So, a lot of questions with Bergevin and his process and being able to draft and develop talent, but being in consideration for the Columbus Blue Jackets role is going to make things very interesting in Ohio. Imagine the trades. Imagine what this guy can do with Johnny Gaudreau on his roster. Let's go back over to this article on ProHockeyRumors.com. Link in the description if you want to read this. Blue Jackets considering MARC BERGEVIN for their GM vacancy. Bergevin, 58, has been in NHL front offices for nearly 2 decades after ending his 1,191-game NHL career in 2004. After spending 7 seasons with the Blackhawks in scouting, coaching, and front office roles, he was tabbed as a GM and executive vice president of the hockey operations of the Canadiens ahead of 2012-13. He spent over 9 seasons with Montreal, presiding over one of the most unexpected Stanley Cup final appearances in recent memory in 2021. The wheels came off that Canadiens immediately, though, and he was fired in late November 2021 after a 6-15-2 start to the following year. Kind of crazy how this all happened within like the span of a few months of each other. The Canadiens made the finals, and then boom, they're eliminated. Okay, 1 summer passes, 2 months passes into the season, and then boom, he's fired. 6-15-2. Not a great start. In the last few months of his tenure with Montreal, Bergevin was criticized heavily for his decision to draft Mailloux with the team's 2021 first-round pick. Mailloux had played in Sweden during his draft year due to the OHL suspending operations, and during that time he was charged with defamation and criminal photography for sending explicit pictures of an S-act without the consent of his partner. Going beyond that, though, many of Bergevin's biggest signings as the Canadiens GM regarding total value have not panned out. The largest one of them all, Carey Price's 8-year, $84 million extension signed in 2017, was worth it for his 2 electric playoff appearances in 2020 and 2021, but through no fault of Bergevin's remains in Montreal's books longer than they'd like, with him unable to play again due to knee injuries. 2 deals signed less than a week apart in 2020, the Gallagher and Anderson deals have saddled current GM Kent Hughes with some pricey cap hits for injury-prone players that have struggled to meet expectations since signing. There also is a little write-up here about Columbus, how Jarmo Kekalainen drew recent criticism for his hiring of Mike Babcock as head coach, who had been criticized multiple times by his former players for improper treatment and alleged verbal abuse since being fired by the Maple Leafs in 2019. Now, there's a lot to go over when it comes to Columbus, but at the end of the day, I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. How do you feel about MARC BERGEVIN being the guy, potentially in CBJ? He was already the senior advisor to Rob Blake, and you can say that the LA Kings haven't really done too much of a great job building their team, considering the Pierre-Luc Dubois contract, considering some of the other roster moves. You traded away Gabe Vilardi and all these guys for Pierre-Luc Dubois. I mean, everything goes back to Dubois, doesn't it? That guy's such a stain on the organization right now, and MARC BERGEVIN was the senior advisor to get that done, so we'll see whether or not this guy has what it takes to to GM, generally manage the Columbus Blue Jackets after being the Montreal Canadiens guy for as long as he was. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.